Did it work, Jess? Okay. Sorry about that. Thanks, guys.
No, that was fast. Judy, I wanted to say, see if Judy, she probably had some thoughts.
I did. Yes, please cook for 20. That means that the volunteers might get to eat because they are plus whatever, whoever we have. Plus, some of you are such good cooks that our guests go to seconds and thirds.
Yes.
Volunteers are left looking at an empty pot and they go home and eat something much less satisfying. So I hope that you will go for the 20, and you might consider, if it's a meal that works this way, of instead of putting it in one very large container, put it into smaller ones. If it's a main casserole, something like that, where you can take the other one home and freeze it. Then you can use your connections within Trinity to say, hey, anybody want me to bring this other half that I have left? And you just assemble your own leftovers in that way.
Thank you. That was very helpful just to understand how the whole thing works. So we'll have enough food, I'm sure.
And absolutely, there's always been, and like Judy said, some nights it gets, the plates or the containers are clean, and some nights it, but we just want you to know, we appreciate what you're doing, and we don't want anything to go to waste, but we know that it's a challenge, but we really do appreciate you taking the time to make these meals, because they are so valued and appreciated by our guests. All right, so I saw another hand up. I thought I saw, okay.
So I might have screwed up, which is pretty normal. So Jessica, I'm bringing a meal. Okay, so I'm bringing like the main dish, but then I'm also doing laundry that night. Is that going to be okay, or is that too much double duty?
What do you think, Karen?
I'll be doing the side, Sue, when you're bringing your meal. So you and I could just double duty on serving and laundry.
And I'll be there as well.
And we
Okay.
have
And I'll be
greeters
there.
that- Well,
And I
done.
was coming as an extra hand. I can always leave to help with the food.
The main
Okay,
thing
so it
is that
should be
it's-
fine.
Yeah, the main thing is just that it doesn't get cold. If it's a warm dish, we just, yeah, that's the only real concern, is that we need to have the food being able to serve hot. That's all.
If you bring your food in an ice chest, like hot out of your oven in an ice chest, it will stay hot for an hour or more.
Yeah.
So that's just a hint. It works really well.
Yep. We're just making sure that we follow the Sacramento County guidelines for, food safety, and CDC guidelines are really important to us, as always. So yes, but that's one of our just, and we've never had a problem. People have been really, we've made it work. So I saw another hand or question, I think. Okay. I'm looking around, making sure I'm not missing anyone. So that was mentioned was the greeters. Those of you who've signed up to be greeters, that is a multitasking, many different hats wearing position. So as a greeter, you are there to greet. One of the things we do is you're taking temps of volunteers that arrive. So somebody's stationed at the downstairs entrance and taking temps. One person may be doing that. One person may be upstairs helping getting everything ready for dinner, putting everything out, getting sure that everything's on the table, things are cleaned up, ready to go. So that's ready to serve dinner. So there's making the drinks, there's putting out all the plates, all of that stuff. A greeter does that. There's also the person who needs to be making sure that as people use restrooms, we're cleaning restrooms. So one of the things that we have to do this year is anytime anyone uses the restroom, we have to clean it right after. So we can't just kind of go in and clean every half hour. If a guest uses the restroom, we have to have somebody that goes in and cleans it right then. So somebody's paying attention to that in the hall. Somebody is help. So there's just many different things that a greeter does through in that time that you're there. Cleaning, greeting guests, making sure the temps are on, that we've taken temps, making sure that everything's set up for dinner, making sure that everything's helped clean up after dinner. So it's a many hat wearing position. So you will always be busy in as a greeter, in a greeter role. And it's a key role because there's between the time that the guests arrive until dinner it can be sometimes it can be really quiet and everything's all under control and nothing's happening. And sometimes it's like, okay, there's different things that have to be accommodated for. And so everybody's really busy. This year, the welcome team, the guests do not have to get a new sleeping bag every night and get a new cot every night, because we're allowing guests who are there from night to night keep their sleeping bag and their cot. So all of that's taken care of. So we don't have to assign sleeping bags every night, which we used to have to do last year. We just have, it's a lot smoother, calmer actually this year. But and somebody may be assigned to go get the dinner. Sometimes there's somebody, whether it's a greeter or whoever Jessica assigns, well, sometimes we have to pick up the meal from the restaurant and bring it. So there's just many different hats and responsibilities for the greeter. And we just recommend that once you get there, talk to your host site leader and say, what do you need me to do? How can I help? And then, be able to take on some of those multitasks that the greeter has. Sometimes we have a specific thing to do, and sometimes we just kind of jump in and see where the need is that night. And again, because we're upstairs and down, you just have to make sure that, that somebody is making sure people are arriving and that somebody's at the front door when people arrive, that kind of thing. The other thing is taking folks out for smoke breaks. So we do allow guests that smoke to go outside and smoke periodically. And so one of you may be asked to say, will you take a group outside to have a smoke break? That may be another responsibility of the greeter. So it's really jack of all trades, kind of interesting job. And then the overnight team. So the overnight team signs up to be there from 8 o'clock until 6:45, 8 p.m. to 6:45. And you're responsible for the safety and security of the guests during that period. And so it's an important role as well. That's one of the reasons, because we're upstairs and downstairs this year, we really are trying. We used to be able to say 2 was fine because we were all on the same floor, but we're not anymore. And so you can't see who might be knocking at the door at 10 o'clock at night. We have to have somebody who's awake. One person at least awake all night long. You can sleep, but only if somebody else who's with you is awake. I actually think it's better to have 2 people awake at any one time, because if somebody needed to run downstairs, then you don't have to wake up somebody else. So if you have 3 people, it's ideal, because then one person can sleep, 2 people can be awake. We have a room where you can, sleep in, bring your own sleeping bags, bring your own sleeping materials. But we have a guest right now who's working until 10 o'clock at night. So he shows up between 10 and 10:30. He's coming in downstairs. You need to be able to go downstairs, get in, bring him in, and allow him to come upstairs. So you can't just leave nobody awake on the second floor if you're running downstairs. So that's one of the reasons why we kind of needed additional overnight folks this year. And it kind of also helps sometimes to have somebody else to be awake with. It's staying up by yourself without anybody to talk with is kind of get lonely. I always have plenty to do, but when I'm with somebody else and we're at least able to talk and quietly, because we're out in the hallway, it does help to make the time go a little faster and keep me awake when I've done overnight. It's, I want to be able to not doze off while I'm supposed to be in charge, for that time period. So it is helpful to have 2 people awake, one person sleeping, and then you can trade off throughout the night. You may choose to do some of the laundry if it depends on if any's left over, how many there are of you, but you're available some of our guests, as soon as they get there after dinner, they're out. But then they might get up at 2 or 3 in the morning and walk around. It's kind of like me. I go to bed about 10. By 2 in the morning, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm up for a while, and I go back to sleep. But I don't. It's hard for me to sleep through a whole night anymore. So I might wake up in the middle of the night. Whereas some people, they don't go to bed until 2 in the morning. Some of the guests may be not ready to go to sleep at 8, 9, 10 at night. They just want to stay up for a while and talk or sit. We have the dining area. They can sit and just be there, be quiet, and we have a place for them to go. So there's always there's a period kind of where it kind of quiets down, but sometimes there's somebody getting up, going to the restroom. We need to clean the restroom. We need some water. I need some more water, those kinds of things. So, Jessica, you've done overnights, right? And those of you that have, I know Brandon has, that, it can be quiet, and then there can be things happening throughout the night. But you are there to make sure that the building is safe and secure, that the guests are safe and secure, and that you're, making sure that everything is answering any questions, responding to issues, et cetera, that happen throughout the night. I don't know, Jessica, or anybody that's done an overnight wants to share anything in terms of their experience doing overnights.
It's helpful to carve out time the next day to take a nap.
Yes. I have to take the next day off. I can't sleep. I have found it's easier for me just to stay up all night and then go somewhere and get some donuts in the morning and have some donuts in the morning. Yeah. So, but go ahead, Judy.
Also, I've had a mother and her married daughter who don't get to see each other often enjoy each other's company during the night, played a game of dominoes. I personally take reading books with me. I love to read, and it gets me ahead of where I was before. Also, knitting, needlework, anything like that. If you're up with somebody who likes to play games, a great opportunity for a game of Scrabble or whatever. The lights dim in the hallway at night, or not, it's up to you. But there still is lights on the station over by the sleeping area and on the welcome team table over by the lighted dining room area. So try to position one person each place, but if it's quiet, you both can collaborate on that game at one of those stations. And you just can be creative. Some people watch a movie on their phone, or the catch up on whatever show that they're binge watching at that time. So
Judy, we had someone do late night online shopping. Be careful.
Oh, there you go.
Be careful.
That's a little scary. that would not be good for me.
So there is light. There is an opportunity to interact, and so it's not like you have to sit there in the dark and try to stay awake.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's light enough in the hall. I'm a knitter, so there's enough even with the lights dim that I can see. Or I did a jigsaw puzzle one time with the person I was working with during the night. So because it is helpful to have somebody else that you can interact with, and it's just available for you. So the overnight team, the new thing that we have this year is we have what's called the morning team, and the morning team comes in around 6:30, 6:45, and they relieve you so you can go home because you're tired. You've been there all night, and they take over, and they're the ones that serve the guests their breakfast. They clean up. They take care of locking up after everybody so that you can go home. You've been up all night as an overnight team. They are the ones that make sure the guests get on the bus back to the intake center. So they arrive, they kind of relieve you of your duties for the night. You can go home, and then the morning team comes in and takes over. You'll start the coffee, get the coffee going in the morning, things like that. But they're responsible for making sure the guests get their morning meal and something they might want to take with them. Last year, in the past, we've always had to be done around 6